everyone, it's Emma, and today I'm talking about What's to Love about The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. If you've never seen me do one of these videos before, this is kind of how I structure my spoiler-free series reviews for my favorite series. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you all, I have a love-hate relationship with these videos because it is so difficult to review your favorite books, the ones that you've read a million times. I read The Raven Boys before I ever started my booktube channel, so I never got to make review videos with my first impression. So now that I know the books so well, it's pretty hard to review them. But I wanted to do this video anyways to give you all who have not read the books an idea as to what it is that I love about this series, as it is probably my favorite series, and whether or not you will like it for yourself. It is pretty hard to give a general idea as to the plot of these books. The blurb on the back kind of makes it sound like a paranormal romance book, and that is not what these books are about at all. Someone mentioned that to Maggie Stiefvater one time, that the blurb on the back of the book really didn't represent the books well, so she wrote her own, and I'm going to read it to you all. I've read this in a couple other different videos, so if you've heard this before, that's probably why. She said, "A host of codependent teens with a battery of psychological issues comb rural Virginia for a dead Welsh king with dubious magical powers. Trees talk, hitmen put down roots. Dead people live, living people die, cars are described in loving detail. A house full of psychics tells everybody the future and drinks a lot on page, considering it's a young adult series. Nobody kisses anybody, which is weird because everybody loves everybody. There's rich boys, poor boys, sad boys, angry boys, raven boys, collect them all." So basically, these books are the friendship adventures of these characters with a lot of mystery and magical forests, creepiness, and teenage angst. Now, I am a very character-driven reader, so whenever I make these videos, pretty much the first thing I'm going to say is that I love the characters. The Raven Boys is the ultimate example of this for me. I think if you are a character-driven reader, you most likely will like these books because the characters are so vibrant, they're so realistic. One of the things that I really appreciate about Maggie's characters is that she doesn't write them to be examples to follow. She really writes them as realistically flawed and just kind of a possibility of what a real person would look like. An example of this is our main character, Blue Sergeant. Blue is this feisty, outraged feminist. I forget where I read this, but Maggie Stiefvater once said that she didn't write Blue to be an example of feminism, as in like this is how feminism should look. She just wrote her as a possibility of this is what a teenage girl might look like. Blue often makes these leaping assumptions about people just from a standpoint of like wanting to protect herself or just having very strong beliefs. That is what I love about her because on the one side, I really relate to her. And then on the other hand, I don't always agree with the way she goes about it. Like sometimes she's not very nice to people. I love that about her because it makes her flawed and it makes her relatable and it makes her likable to me. Another character who is very likable but also very flawed is Ronan Lynch. Ronan is probably my favorite of the whole series. I usually say he's my favorite character. He is one of my favorite characters in general, not just in the series. Ronan views the world in like a really negative way. Like he's this very angry person. He doesn't get along with people well. He is definitely not polite at all. He cusses a lot. He's just kind of mean and harsh. The reason that I love Ronan so much, and I think maybe one of the reasons a lot of people like him in general, is that he is an example of how hating yourself really holds you back in life. It's something about Ronan's character development that he has to learn to love every part of himself, learn to accept every part of himself, forgive himself, and that if he doesn't do that, he can't really live to the fullest extent. He can't live happily or vibrantly or heal from the hurt that he's gone through. That kind of like message that Maggie shows through Ronan is one of my favorite things. Ask anyone who loves these books. These books are all about friendship. The romance kind of takes a back seat to the friendships in these books. I talk about this often about my favorite books. It is a running theme in my favorite books that the friendships are given equal page time as the romantic relationships. I think that is so important in writing because it just portrays a healthy, full-rounded life. These books accomplish that almost better than any other YA books I have read. Maggie really created this unique friend group with these books. They're so closely knit. She just posted on Instagram like a couple days ago that while writing the books, she had a post-it on her computer that said, "The worst thing that could happen is that they all stop being friends." You can tell when you read these books that the friendship is like the running theme, like the core of these books is this friendship. I think one of the reasons that these friendships feel so real is that she shows all of their relationships with each other. You get to see Blue and Gansy's relationship, Blue and Adam's relationship, Blue and Noah's relationship, Blue and Ronan's relationship, and then like all the boys' relationships with each other. You kind of get to see moments and what their interactions are like between all of them, which is just so good. It's like not just about the two main people or the main couple and then there's all the friends surrounding them. The other thing is that it's not just the kids' friendships and relationships that you get to see. There's a lot of adults present throughout these books. Like the adults play a big role. Blue lives in a house full of women. She has her mom, who's a single mom, but then she also has like all these aunts and all these cousins, and her house is just full of all these psychic women who are basically all moms to Blue. The women of Foxway, which is where Blue lives, are so lovable. I love Blue and her mom's relationship. Apart from Lorelai and Rory from the TV show Gilmore Girls, it is the closest relationship I've ever seen to my mom and me and how we interact. There was this one scene that while I was reading the books, I had to like go out and read it to my mom because it was so like us, and we were just laughing so hard because it was exactly like a conversation that we've had. Not just the women, but you also get the relationships of Persephone, which is one of the women in Foxway, and Adam. They have a really interesting magical mentor relationship. You also get to see Blue and the Gray Man, which is a adult man who comes in the second book, I believe. They have a really, really sweet friendship. And then you also get Gansy and Mallory, who Mallory is this old man who Gansy has become friends with. Those kind of relationships are so meaningful in real life that I really miss them when you don't see them in YA books, especially when you're a young person. At least for me in my life, those relationships were more important than the romantic relationships when I was a teenager. So I always really, really appreciate that when I see it in books. Now I'm going to talk just a little bit about the kind of atmosphere and the writing style. One of the things that I love the most about these books is really the mood. It is so mysterious and magical. A big theme throughout the books is that time is circular, so that like time repeats itself and that it doesn't really happen in one linear kind of timeline. One of the genius things that Maggie did is she wrote the books to feel circular. You don't really get this the first time you read it through. I got it a lot more the second and third time I read the books. She kind of repeats certain phrases and certain things throughout the books so that it feels like time is circular, which means that the more you read the books, the better it gets because you pick up on more and more. Each time I've read through, it has been a different experience because I've noticed different things. And then next is the whole setting. For me, my favorite books are those ones that kind of take place in the real world, but magic exists, but magic is not explained. And The Raven Boys feels like that. She doesn't explain where magic comes from or why it's there or how it works. But the fact that Maggie leaves it so vague is what I love, because it does just kind of feel like, oh, well, magic is real. You can go into this forest and go into a tree and have like visions. You can touch leaves in the air and they turn to goldfish and swim through the air. Like that kind of stuff is happening, which makes it feel so beautiful and magical. The way that Maggie describes the characters' love for each other and the characters' love of magic and the existence of magic is how I feel about reading these books. I love the characters like that, and I love the magic like that. That's everything I have to talk about as to why I love the Raven Boys. Obviously, that's not all the things that I love about the Raven Boys, because I could go on and on and on about it, especially if we got into spoilers. But I hope that this was enough to give you an idea as to whether or not you would love the series for yourself. For those of you who participated in the read-along, I just really wanted to say a huge, big ol' thank you because I had so much fun. You guys were the best. You tweeted at me, you tagged me in pictures, you did literally everything that I asked you to do before the read-along started, and I hope that you all had half as much fun as I did. Let me know down in the comments if you participated in the read-along, whether you read it for the first time or whether you were rereading it, and whether you had fun. I hope you have a lovely day or night or afternoon wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video.